home today?
No, I'm in my office. Here, I'll give you a little tour. I
My
don't
goodness.
know. This is our boardroom.
Yes.
And then, have you been here?
I
Yeah.
haven't.
I'm doing a little circle for you. This is
It
our
is.
main space here.
Ah,
And then if we go this way, we go into my office. Have our mural here. We're doing a coat drive right now for the women who live at the shelter at the Brenda Strafford.
oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah, so we have some coats, and then here's my little office.
Love it. Marilyn.
Marilyn, it's a Andy Warhol print by Sunday B Morning. Isn't that cool?
Wow, that's funky.
Here, I'll walk you. It's from Masters Gallery, one of our clients. So
Ah,
just to do a
yes.
little promo.
Oh, look at the color on there. Wow.
I know, isn't that cool? And it's kind of sparkly, the background. I don't know if you can see
Oh,
that.
yes, I can. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fun.
And then
Eh,
do you know Matthew
I
Conrad?
do. Yes. Hey, Matt.
I think he might be on a call, but
Oh,
I'll just let you wave.
Hey, good to see you.
good to see you too.
There you go. So no, not working from home, but at our office.
Yeah. Bob still around?
He is. He's
Yeah.
actually he has today and 2 days off because his daughter is visiting from Vancouver.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so he's not in the office today.
Yeah.
And we had a big event last night for our clients. We had a little soiree, so that was fun.
I saw, I think who was it? Cody and Sue was there, Paul Van Ginkel.
Yeah, we had Masters Gallery and Bankers Hall and Barclay Street
Yeah.
and lots of different Avenue Magazine, Global News, Calgary Citizen, Livewire, my parents, lots of our friends. Yeah, it was
Nice.
fun.
It's pretty cool, this new world we're in.
Oh my God, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, so great to talk to you
Thank
today.
you for coming on. Yeah, how's life been for you otherwise?
Life has been good for me.
Yes.
I'm going to be receiving an award called the Queen Elizabeth II Platinum Jubilee Medal.
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you.
I love it. And you guys are in the same location? Kensington?
Yeah, so we're in the heart of Kensington on 10A Street and Kensington Road. We occupy the top floor of the building where DeVille is in the bottom space. And we have, yeah, so right now it's our 7th year anniversary this month.
Congrats.
Parker PR, thank you. We launched Parker Media during the pandemic. So we do video and photography under the brand Parker Media. Like I said, we're excited about some new developments. We've officially partnered with Redpoint Media, and we will be doing all the video content for Avenue Magazine and
Nice.
and their team over there. So that's a great partnership that's been formed that we're really proud of because we
Mhm.
love the Avenue Magazine team. And I was a top 40 under 40, so I'm really inspired and connected to the top 40 under 40 and ensuring that they have lots of access points
Mhm.
in my network to meet new people and just kind of grow those aspirational people in Calgary to do meaningful work.
Mhm.
And the other exciting thing is we are launching a mentorship program in January. So there'll be more information about that, but it's really exciting. And we've set up a framework that's really easy for people in the community like yourselves to even offer an hour a month for 12 months to one mentee with a structured approach with quarterly goals for that individual. And we provide a framework in which our mentors can utilize to be really effective in the mentorship experience. So that will be launching in January as a way to bridge the needs between the people in the community looking for support, the individuals looking for
Mhm.
support, and the people in the community who want to offer support. Because we play matchmaker here all the time. I'm constantly playing matchmaker. So this is a way to really create a powerful platform to showcase our mentors, their images, their biographies, their information, and then align them with the right person who they can actually help and see tangible results.
Has the landscape of public relations changed over time? Obviously, the mediums have, the platforms have, but has the overall way of doing things changed?
I kind of feel like we've had this whole shift of digital and online connection,
Mhm.
but in an effort to be authentic and credible, we also have to put as much effort into connecting as individuals and putting effort and value in, the events that we have need to have a purpose, and you want to feel welcome, and you want to, gone are the days where you go somewhere and no one is coming and saying hi and greeting you
Mm.
and not making you feel included and a part of a community. Like there used to be events that happened where there wasn't an emphasis on that the same way that there is now.
Now, is it up to usually the event holders to take that responsibility to make guests feel welcome and loved
Yeah,
and
I think so, absolutely. And I think that that's one way that Parker PR stands out from what I've heard anyway, is when people attend our events, they feel valued, they
Mm.
feel like they actually genuinely connect with other people. And it's kind of like a launch pad for new relationships, new ideas to be generated, new collaborations to be formed. And that's one of the reasons why I love this industry so much and why I love this business so much.
it's I think before I even knew Bob was a part of Parker, I don't know if he was at the time, but you're so great at finding people that resemble what you want and portray of who you really are. So Bob's a great example. Matt is amazing. There's these people
Thank you.
that just are out there, these arms. Like Bob, I was at a meal share event at Rodney's Oyster House years ago, and he just made me feel so a part of it.
Totally.
And I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. And same with Matt, he's just reached out, made you feel comfortable. And yeah, so thank you
Amazing.
for that. It comes down from leadership.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I feel like you would feel the same way if you also worked here, connected with Sierra or Christina or Caitlin or Tori. It's the same. And I think also that happens when you work in a small group. The culture is so important. And that's why it's so hard as a CEO and an entrepreneur like myself, and probably you find this too, when, unfortunately at times it doesn't work out for everybody, but
Yeah.
it becomes so apparent so quickly often when you do work so hard to create a kind of culture like what you just described with how you feel when you're with Bob, like that is the standard. And in a small team, it's not like a giant organization where people can just kind of blend in for a long time. It's yeah, if you don't have those values, those same principles and values, then that almost means more than the skills.
Totally.
I'm grateful that we do have a fully skilled team, but it's a lot easier to train people
Yes.
than to impart values on them.
Back then, if you wanted to start a newspaper, it was so difficult, not only from a time standpoint, but a capital standpoint. The barrier to entry in social media and media management is so minimum. How does Parker stand out above the rest?
That's a really good question. It is true. Like anybody now we see can be an influencer. Like you said, the barrier to entry, you don't need to have a degree, you don't need to have training. So we definitely stand out because of that. Like we're a fully trained, educated team of
Mhm.
professionals, communication and PR and broadcast, journalism, photography, videography, trained professionals. That would be number one. Number two, I think that we're all like-minded in the way that we want to do meaningful work. And so when we have an organization that's a charity and doesn't have a budget reach out to us, but they're doing something really meaningful, like treat accessibly, for example, the movement to allow for children with disabilities to trick or treat. They reached out to us, they didn't have a budget, and immediately we said, absolutely, we're going to help you. And through social media, it's so I'm not going to say easy, but it's a way for us to really effectively chase a brand like that and target so many people with just a couple posts that we can reach tons of markets through social media. So that's one way I feel that kind of we stand out with respect to digital marketing and social media is number one, that we're trained in CP style. So we're writing
Yes,
We're writing in a way that's professional, and then also people are attracted to us because they know that we'll help them out if they're doing meaningful work and they don't necessarily have a giant budget for it.
totally. Coming out of what we all went through as a whole, as the human race, would you say there's more businesses opening up or closing from from that landscape?
Um, yeah,
Calgary
I
based.
think, you know what's really interesting? I learned yesterday from my friend at Avenue Magazine, Jocelyn, that South Centre Mall is at 100% capacity. And
Wow.
I find that fascinating. So whenever someone asks me a question like that, I always go to fact. I love facts and I love research. And so based on that statistic, I would say they're opening up. I look at the BIAs we work in, and there's not a lot of difference. Some go and then new ones come. I would say that it's not a significant trend with the BIAs. Online and digital platforms, and like you said, influencers and like PR companies, they're kind of popping up a lot more right now just because this trend toward digital, what we've seen that happened and we were forced to do during COVID,
Mhm.
has become um, habitual now. So we see a lot more of those online things popping up.
I saw you recently, I think it was at Mount Royal University teaching.
Yeah, so I'm like a guest lecturer for the PR program there. I'm a graduate of the 4-year degree program at Mount Royal University in the public relations department. So I was speaking, I think, around to 60 kids the other morning, talking about media relations and kind of what goes on as a person who owns a PR company and has a family. And I'm on, well, 8 committees and boards now. I've recently joined another one, but yeah, so that's really fun to talk to these people in school. And I usually create my lectures, and I'm always intentional what I talk about, thinking about what I wanted to know when I was sitting in their seat. So thinking about like what are the key takeaways that I wish someone had told me when I was a student, and what are things that I need to consider when I'm getting interviewed or when I'm having a client get interviewed. Um, all these little tips and tricks. So I go in with that kind of mindset. That's so for me to see those things because I was one point.
Yeah. Helen, every time I've seen you, you're always smiling. You're always so positive, and you have this energy, this light. Is it always like that? Is there ever times you're stressed out, or are you always positive in life?
Oh, that's a good question. Oh, yes. There's definitely times that are darker. And I think what I am mindful of is what I allow to come and impact me. So it's all I feel like it's my choice. I mean, the darkest moments for me are if my kids are struggling in any way, shape, or form, if they're being teased, if they're injured,
Mhm.
like those are the dark moments. If we have a client who's disgruntled, or if I have a situation with my team that's challenging, of course there's hardship in that, but at the same time,
Yeah,
there's a few things in my toolkit I turn to that help me, and I'll share that with you if you would like.
absolutely.
Yeah, so one of them is the 4 agreements. And it is something that a very small book that I read in my 20s, and it's lived with me since. And it's never make assumptions, be impeccable with your word, always do your best, and don't take anything personally. And so if you start with always doing your best, and you genuinely feel that you have done your best, then you should never be making an assumption or taking anything personally. And you should also always be impeccable with your word, because your word is your honor and words are powerful, right? So I feel like when I approach situations, I try to, number one, be mindful of, um, you know, if I never make an assumption, then that clears away so many obstacles right there. That gets me into a direct communication role where I'm just getting facts and I'm just having a discussion. And if I'm not taking anything personally, that I'm not coming in with weird energy. I'm not thinking, oh, maybe they're not going to like what I have to say, or, oh, am I going to offend them? You know what I mean? So I'm just coming in with an open mind. And then, of course, ensuring that what I'm saying is thoughtful and has a call to action and has purpose. And so I feel like that is a powerful tool that I have. And then just also the importance of living in the now, really. Like when you
So
are,
important.
when you're in a conversation, you're in a conversation. I used this as an example, actually, when I was at Mount Royal earlier this week. I said to the students, I recommended that they read a book called A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. And I said, it says in the book, when you're in your kitchen chopping vegetables, you are in your kitchen chopping vegetables. When you're with your family, you're with your family, you're engaged. You and I are having this conversation, we're right here. As soon as you let this kind of dialogue go in your head and consume your thoughts of, what if, oh my goodness, what if I had done that differently? What's going to happen? This is all just noise that needs to just be shelved, and you can be a lot more focused, I feel, and enjoy your life more ultimately, which is really the big goal at the end of the day for all of us, is happiness.
Totally. Yeah. What is happiness to you? How do you define happiness?
I would say for me, well, it's just a sense of I've done my best. And also the people around me feel warmth, and they feel value, and they are also in a state of like peacefulness.
Security.
Yeah, and obviously that's very like altruistic. Like if we're all going around in a state of calm, peaceful bliss, I mean, but also the power of the mind, right? Like it's really powerful. We can really choose to be happy if we want to. So I've chosen to be happy.
We have choices, right?
Exactly.
When you look at Calgary as a whole, why has it been a place of such love and joy and interest to you? I mean, you were in New York, you traveled the world. Why still focus in Calgary?
Yeah, great question. So when I was like, really quick backstory, my mother and biological father separated when I was 1.5, and my mom remarried when I was about almost 4, or I just turned 4 actually. And we lived in Nova Scotia. And my mom's best friend was taking geology in Calgary. And one of his friends was in geology in Calgary, but traveled to Nova Scotia for a trip and met my mom and myself. And then 6 months later, we were living in Calgary and they got married. And I was so excited, even when I was just a little girl, to be moving to Calgary. And I had a dad who I loved, and we bonded right away, and that was amazing. And then I grew up in Calgary, and my parents sent me to the Waldorf school, which was a huge gift of education. And I would definitely attribute a lot of my, like, this conversation we're having, and like the decision to be happy, the decision to work on myself, to the curriculum with the Waldorf school and my education from kindergarten to grade 9 there. And then I went to Mount Royal University and got my degree. I've been volunteering in Calgary since I was 11, like formally volunteering since I was 11 at various organizations serving food to the homeless. I volunteered at what used to be called ACAD, but is now Alberta University for the Arts. So I volunteered up there in the wearable art program. So in a nutshell, I feel like Calgary has been so kind to me, and it's such a great community. And it's a mix of really strong entrepreneurial spirit. I'm a huge fan of our oil and gas industry. I'm also a huge volunteer and an art collector, and I support tons of charity organizations and art organizations. My parents are in a rockabilly band. So I have a very fulsome connection to all of these meaningful organizations, like I would in New York, right? So kind of bigger world thinking, I think, exists here as well. And it was interesting because when I moved to New York City and I spent the later part of my 20s there for 3 years, working for the Institute for Children in Poverty. And then I also worked for a PR company, which was really interesting. And it was fantastic and it was fascinating and it inspired me in so many ways. And I think as a PR person, it's almost like a disservice to yourself if you don't go to New York and do PR, because it is the hub of public relations and communications. It is the Mecca. It's like the one place, if you want to be a real PR professional, you need to go to New York, right? So that was a really big part of my journey. However, my family is here and I love Calgary and I love my family and I wanted to have my own family and I always knew that. So I wanted to do that here. It was important to me to kind of give back to Calgary the way that I feel like I've received from Calgary for so long. And then also with New York, we still have done work there and we will continue to do work there. Obviously, the pandemic was a challenge. We had some projects lined up. We had a gallery opening potentially lined up, and then COVID happened. And so a lot of things got derailed. It was very, very hard for me, COVID, very hard for the business. However, now we're rebuilding and there will be opportunities. I just had a call with one of the new directors at a school, an art school in Woodstock, New York, which is 2 hours north of Manhattan.
Yeah.
And we have a Zoom call coming up and there's opportunity there. So that's kind of in the back burner for me, but my time is so precious. And like I said, my number one priority are my children and my family and my husband. So I'm not going to be doing anything that will take more time away from them until it's the right time for me.
Absolutely. And especially when you got all these committees that you're on, family life, entrepreneur, hanging out with your team, yet new customers. It's a lot to take. How do you silence the noise so you have Ellen time?
It goes back to that whole, the power of now, like being where I am in my mind and in my body when I'm there. So when I'm with my children, I'm fully present.
Yes.
And because I own my own business, it's such a gift. I also live a 3-minute walk from my home in Kensington. My children go to this school that's like 4 blocks away. So every Wednesday from 9 to 12, I volunteer in my boys' class. They're in grade 4 and grade 6. So I'm in Henry's class for the first hour and a half, Oliver's class for the second part of that time. So I'm with them every morning, taking them to school, making a hot breakfast. I do lots of hockey. They both play hockey. So I'm the social coordinator on one of their hockey teams. So I definitely just prioritize it, right? Like it's all about prioritizing and going back to that whole thing of who do we want to spend our time with? Where do we want to put our energy? That's why the team is so important, that it's created and curated and nurtured to continue to be special. And that goes with the groups I work with, the volunteer work I do, the friend circle I have. Yes. It's very mindful. And if you think about it, we do have so many hours in the day and we have a lot of time. And what are we doing with our time? So that's a choice as well, I think.
And saying no to things that drain your energy. That's huge, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. And I think the more we practice that, you start to kind of realize how many things you stop doing because you realize that it's just not a good use of your time and it's not bringing joy or meaning. Meaning is the big word to yourself or to your community.
Exactly. We all have inspiration when we start something from somewhere. For you, was it Edelman? Was it someone in Burnett Jones or who was it out there that kind of got you inspired? I don't think it's Burnett Jones I'm thinking of. It's something Burnett.
That's a good question. Honestly, I think it's probably like my family. My dad is such a wonderful person. People who are doing things that they're really passionate about, that they love, that also contribute and grow the community. one person that comes to mind is a very close friend of my family for many years. Her name is Dee Fontans. She lives in BC now, but she was the head of the wearable art program at ACAD back in the day. And she grew up in New Jersey and she trained in New York. She was my parents' neighbor for years and years and years. And I grew up with her. She was like my aunt. And she was an absolutely fascinating person and artist and creative in the city, very popular, Dee Fontans. She was always in the paper back in the day. And I did a lot with her growing up. I volunteered for her. I was a model for her for years and years and years in my teens. And she was just one of these people that had a lot of conviction and passion and spoke her truth all the time, like did not, there was nothing fake or not authentic about her, essentially. And so she was inspiring. And I mean, even Dr. David Swan back in the day, like he was my neighbor, and he was our MLA for the Calgary Mountain View constituency. And I officially nominated him when I was in my early 20s and joined his board. The first board I sat on in my early mid 20s was the Calgary Mountain View constituency board of directors. And listening to him talk about his passion and purpose. I mean, he was a medical doctor who got fired from the Medicine Hat board that he was on because he said that the oil and gas industry and coal burning and things like this have a very negative impact on people's health, because that was not conducive to the rich economy that is aligned with production. He was fired from that board. And so at that time, he recognized, you know, for me to be impactful, I need to get into politics, because being a doctor, I'm up against policy. Like, how is this happening? And so, I mean, my husband's a geologist, and like I started this conversation saying I'm a big fan of oil and gas, but what I did admire is like the conviction and the purpose. And so he then went into politics, and he was such a visionary. And I mean, truly, I think he was too compassionate and to be a politician. At the end of the day, he was too altruistic. I should say that. There are compassionate politicians. And I have a lot of respect for politicians too. I think they have a very hard time. And I admire them greatly for what they do. So, but yeah, I think people like that in our community who we see just doing great work. And there's so many people in the city doing great work, like the Folk Festival, Sarah Leishman and Carrie Clark, Jeff Hessel with Tourism Calgary, Andrew Moscar with the National Music Center, you know, Kathy with DJD, Mark Stevens with the Calgary Philharmonic Orchestra, David Leinster with Contemporary Calgary, Alex Sarian with Arts Commons. Like, these are the leaders in this community that are doing great work, who all inspire me.
What is it about art for you?
Yeah, I've always just loved art. I think going to an artistic school, like I had mentioned, instilled that in me when I was very young. And I just love art. I think going to art galleries, Masters Gallery in particular, whenever I travel, I always go to the art galleries. It's one of my favorite things to do. Like the Vancouver Art Gallery is wonderful. Art Gallery of Ontario is amazing.
Did you see that I posted the Vancouver Art Gallery recently?
Yes, I saw that. Were you there?
No, I reposted it. I usually don't repost that kind of stuff, but as somebody that just loves art as well, you know, it kind of broke my heart to see Emily Carr. And I sent it to Liz as well. I said, "Oh my God," because Liz and I were talking about Emily Carr back then a few months ago. So actually a year ago. So it was just kind of sad to see that happen.
Yeah. You know, I have a book, an Emily Carr. It's for children. It's like a children's book of her story. And it's really neat. And one thing that we did, like my love of art, I hope that love is instilled in my own kids and also available in the Calgary Board of Education and the curriculum for children to be able to experience fine art and art in general. And so one thing that we did with Masters Gallery, they're one of our clients, is we helped them launch a program for children to come into Masters Gallery and view the art. So Ryan Green, who's their CEO, is amazing. You probably know Ryan, and he donated resources to the CBE to ensure that all the classrooms in elementary school could get buses to come to his gallery, where they would be offered like juice boxes and snacks and crayons and get a tour of the art. And
Wow.
it's a really, really cool program. So I think art it's just an opportunity to be inspired. It changes the space. Our space is where our creative mindset is nurtured, and and I love many artists. We have some great Canadian artists.
Oh, yes.
David Thauberger is amazing. Maggie Hall is doing interesting
Yes.
pop art. Amy
I think
Dreyer, I love.
David Browning, I think.
David
Browning?
Bruning.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a David Bruning in my living room. And at the Ranchman's Club, which I'm quite involved
Yeah.
in, as you know, we have an amazing, oh, no, sorry, Chris Flodberg. Sorry, we have an amazing Chris Flodberg. I have a David Bruning in my office.
It's wild, and his ways, yeah.
Do you want me to show it to you?
Sure, yeah.
Because we're doing this interview. Yeah, it's really cool. I got it at a fundraiser, actually. I bid on it and I won because I like to win as well. I'm also a little bit competitive.
Good.
But here we go.
There we go. That's David's art. Yes.
Isn't that amazing? So that's David. Here, I'll give you a quick art tour now that we're in this chat.
I've still never been to Masters. I've been outside of it.
Goodness, we should go. I should meet you there for coffee. So this is Amy Dreyer. So this is inspired by some of my time in New York.
My goodness, pretty.
Isn't that neat? And then I showed you the Marilyn already.
Yes.
Oh, and I have one more. It's absolutely stunning. It's from a gallery in Fredericton, and it's Peonies. And it's an artist, I believe, from Ontario.
Wow. Look at the detail.
Isn't that stunning?
Even the background on it and the frame is beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And then I have, so that's just a little bit of the art. I can't put too much in here because it's too expensive. It would be, right? Yes, but no, Masters Gallery. Also, Zach, I have for our partners and clients, we have a little Christmas goodie bag. So I have one for you.
Oh.
And it has a little Masters Gallery treat in it.
Interesting. Okay. Well, thank you.
A $50 gift certificate, actually. So
to Masters.
Yeah. So it can go toward a piece of art.
Towards a piece of art. Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Wow. It's never about the artist. It's just, it's about a piece and how it moves you, isn't it? So why did that David one move you? Or why did the Peonies move you?
Yeah, the David one, it was the neon colors at the time, like the bright neon, greeny neon, yellow green neon, and then the bright orange. And I loved the purple, the light gray purple in the piece. I found it just spoke to me. And I also watched David paint it. So this was a dinner event that I was at where we had our artists painting live at the event, and then we were bidding on the art. So I not only got to speak with David, and it was right before he moved to Vancouver, and he lived just down the street from the Ranchman's Club where the event was being held. And it was one of the events that I had planned because I'm the chair of the events committee at the club. I'm also on the board. Yes. And I'm the vice chair of the Heritage and Art Committee. So through those volunteer experiences, I get to have this incredible opportunity to work with artists and create really interesting experiences around art and food.
Have you seen David's bike?
I believe I have. Yeah. Was it?
It's like a Harley or something, but it's painted on or something. It was really cool looking.
Okay. It's jogging a memory. Yeah. There's something interesting about it.
When it's all said and done, what do you hope for Calgary, for the arts community? What do you want to see?
I want to see them to continue to thrive. I want to see stronger partnerships and collaborations between the business community, the oil and gas community, and our art community, because I think there's such a huge opportunity. I'm hopeful that we start to like have rationality and fact-based processes around our industry and our resources, and how we promote them and how we promote our economy. I think that I'm hopeful that there's a shift there, because I think that if that is doing well, we will see a trickle-down effect to our charities and to our arts community in such a tremendous way that has been overlooked. I recognize that we do have, we all need to be mindful with the environment, and I recognize that that is a reality as well, that we need to care for our planet. But I feel like we've gone too far in some respects with our carbon tax, and we are crippling our opportunity to really have impact the way that we can as a province.
Okay.
And so I'm hopeful that there's a shift there, which will allow for organizations to have the means to do in community investment and to do supporting the arts, because I mean, it's our private donors and private corporations who are running and making sure that these charity organizations and art organizations can thrive. I mean, that's where the revenue is coming from. And so encouraging our small business community to be strong, supporting our small business community, supporting, you know, our oil and gas industry, I think that that is going to be imperative to ensure that we're able to keep supporting the arts, and also that we're attracting investors from around the world to want to invest here. You know, I mean, that's a huge problem right now, and something that we need to be mindful of, because it has to be one whole operation working. And so that's what I'm hopeful for.
Yes. You know, before we get going here, Ellen, for the people that don't know what PR is, what is PR? And I guess in today's era, what is PR?
Yeah, so like public relations is communicating to various audiences and using multiple different kind of medium to do that, whether it's websites, social media, investor relations, events, media relations, to create a window for organizations to share their messaging and to tell their story and to inspire their audience to behave in a certain way or to purchase a certain product. I mean, ultimately, public relations is relating to the public through communication to achieve certain outcomes.
Yes.
And I think the most impactful PR is PR that takes a wholesome and fulsome approach to communicating. So that means the organization is really figuring out what their key message is, what the why is for them, what they're trying to accomplish, and then crafting the communications and sharing it through every possible communication medium. So ensuring the website is telling the right story in the right way, to ensure the social media is telling the story in the right way, whether it's also through some photos or some video with quick, snappy captions that are in CP style. And then also the press releases are written properly in CP style, and the who, what, where, when, why is in the first paragraph, and it's all done well. And then again, to video and photography, to utilizing video and photography to tell the story and share the messages in a creative way. And bringing that all together is essentially PR.
Interesting. Have you thought about digital artwork, such as NFTs? That's that new word we keep hearing.
Yeah, digital. So I mean, digital imagery and
Because I think
animation.
Contemporary Calgary had something with NFTs, didn't they, recently? At their
Um,
show, or I think.
the Look
Oh,
Gala.
look, there we go. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. I think looking at technology and looking at advancements in all of the areas when it's around communication and applying that is really important. And I do think that that's an area that's somewhat new to many of us.
Yes.
And it's also, I mean, I just had when I was speaking at Mount Royal University, I was asked to come back and talk to them about how they're teaching their students about digital and social media, because even now it's all new. And the people who are teaching the communication courses are saying, we don't know what to tell them to do. And it's changing so quickly. 1 month you have to do 20 hashtags. The next month they're saying 3 to 5 hashtags. You can't put text over top of a photo or it gets buried. You have to put text over a photo. So there's all these different nuances that are constantly changing. So I think like a trend for sure that's important that we have to climatize ourselves to is having someone who's assigned to be constantly researching most current
Trends
tips and tricks and trends, to your point. Because now we're challenged with, we're inundated with information. So
it's
how do
everywhere.
you start? Yeah, it's everywhere. So visuals and fast.
And what works for Facebook doesn't work for Instagram versus YouTube and TikTok and all these things. There's so many short form, vertical.
Exactly. And even TikTok, like the average age on TikTok a year ago was 15 to 20 or something. And now it's like 20 to 35, right? So how are we getting our 31-year-old dentist and team to do TikTok? You know, like it's because it is an audience that we don't want to forget about. Because if you're going to create the messaging, you may as well deploy it on as many of those communication mediums as possible to have the biggest impact.
For making that one, say, 30-second video, it's like how many different sizes and formats, and oh my goodness, and there's music on top, and it's a lot.
Oh, it's a lot.
If a
And
brand,
at the end of the day, you know, like, is this actually growing followers engagement, and is the growing followers actually having people buy the product? I mean, at the end of the day, like, I think looking at measuring your efforts and measuring your ROI is super important with all of this.
Do you have a hard time with the older generation saying, okay, social media could be of value to my brand?
They now are becoming more responsive to that. A couple of years ago, I would say absolutely. Like, people had no idea. But I mean, I would say just look at all of our parents. Like, my parents at first were like, oh my gosh, that's ridiculous. And now how many of our parents are addicted to Facebook, you know, and
Totally.
Instagram? Like,
Dad, what are you doing? Scrolling through his Facebook feed,
yeah.
clicking YouTube videos.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that people recognize the importance of it. I mean, as soon as someone, you know, as soon as, say, for example, an older gentleman decides they want to have a little event, and then they do an event page on Facebook and invite all their friends, and now they have 50 people coming, that's a pretty quick way to see an impact when you decide to do a Facebook thing, right? Like, there's little ways to be like, holy wow. Like, for example, one last little quick thing for you. One of my very first clients, Kensington Business Improvement Area, who is still my client, the executive director, Annie, is actually one of these people that I admire, that we talked about earlier, who I absolutely love. I adore her. Anyway, I've had the privilege of working with her now for like almost 8 years. But Kensington, one of the stores was launching a Harry Potter book. So we decided, we're the PR team. This was several years ago now, I think 5 years ago now. We did a Facebook group to promote it, and we wrote one press release. What we decided to do was, Page's Bookstore was releasing the J.K. Rowling's book 7. We invited all the businesses in the neighborhood to do their own kind of iteration of Harry Potter within their own shop. We had about 40 businesses do something creative within their own shop. Starbucks did a butterbeer frappuccino, et cetera, et cetera. Within an hour, we had 7,000 people say that they were coming to the event on Facebook. So the tool of Facebook allowed us to have an idea of the popularity and what to expect. We ended up having 40,000 people come to Kensington for what we called Diagon Alley. I don't know if you ever heard
I
about
do
this.
remember that. Now that you're talking about all this, I'm like, oh my goodness, I remember Kensington had something with Harry Potter.
Yes. So now that when people tell me that Facebook doesn't work, I just tell them that quick story because it was the Facebook page group that communicated to so many people who are obsessed with Harry Potter who thought, I mean, I'm not, I'm the older, I'm outside of that generation, right? But
You're the Daniel Steele. No, I'm just
yeah. Oh God.
kidding.
Sex and the City. No. But yeah, anyway, so it can be very powerful. And that event actually really springboarded my company because everybody knew Per PR after we did that. And then the second year we had 60,000 people. And then the following year we got a cease and desist letter from Warner Brothers because we were using Harry Potter language, which was in violation of their rights. So we had to, yeah. So when
You're
you get
like,
it,
we're actually helping you guys.
totally, and it's like
Yeah.
we're in Calgary, you know what I mean? And the press release got picked up in the UK.
Oh my goodness.
So
You did
that is
something
it.
right.
Yeah, so that's another example of the
Mhm.
power of Facebook and the power of media relations.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Ellen, before we get going here, what is something you could say to a gal that's sitting there that wants to be the next Ellen?
Oh, um, come over to me because I'm trying to replace myself at some point. No, I would say that I'm just I'm inspired by people who contribute so much of their time for the betterment of others.
Mhm.
And I think that ultimately at the end of the day, there's a lot of it's very, you know, it's providing a lot of goodwill. It's being an ambassador of goodwill, but it's also very self-serving because you feel so good when you get to help someone.
Totally. Yeah.
So it's really a win-win.
Yes.
So I would just encourage people to get in the community because that's how you're going to do well. That's how you're going to get awards, and that's how you're going to grow a brand. You can't, nothing great will happen without a lot of great work. It's
Isn't that
like,
true?
how do you kill negativity with positivity? How do you achieve positive outcomes with lots of positive outcomes?
Surround yourself with people
Mm.
that lift you, and you vice versa. You should be lifting them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you, Ellen. I
So
appreciate that.
you're welcome. Thank you so much for the chat.